It's very late for me to make this comment in the form of a question, but it's what actually interests me more than what you disagree on, both of you, is if you both agree that we have a problem with fundamentalists, and we have a problem with aggressive fundamentalists, and we have a problem with violent and suicidal fundamentalists, and you both have thought and feel passionately about the arena of this, what the two of you might do with an hour and a half of trying to figure out what we do about that. Because I think that's actually more profound and interesting than what you disagree about.
Well, but that's, I think, the thing that we disagree about most. And I don't want to put words into Sam's mouth, but Sam has said on numerous occasions that it's religion that's at fault, because there is no sort of sympathy for moderate forms of any kind of religion. Indeed, Sam says that it is the moderates who pave the way, who give the excuse for the extremists and the fundamentalists. So you want to get rid of fundamentalism? You want to get rid of extremism? Get rid of religion. I couldn't disagree more, simply because I don't think religion is something that one gets rid of. Religion is the language that we describe these experiences that have always been with us and will always be with us. And that language will change just as religion will change. But nevertheless, to me, the answer to rooting out extremism is, well, it depends. I mean, certainly, look, there's no talking to bin Laden. I mean, you're not gonna change the guy's mind about anything, so there's no reason to try. But I'm talking about sort of traditionalism and conservatism, evangelicalism, you know, those kinds of what we would refer to as fringe, perhaps even irrational views of religion. The way to combat that is through rational views of religion, as far as I'm concerned.
Okay. One more question, and then we'll adjourn.
Hi, Reza. I actually don't think Sam disagrees that much with you. I think he feels perhaps that if it was rational from the point of view that the world was expressing themselves off the scriptures that they read, that then religion would be okay because it would fall into a range like astrology or something, because people would see it as a part of their lives versus inflicted on others. However, I think that there seems to be something missing here in the whole discussion of the Middle East and perhaps fanaticism throughout the world, is the issues that the institutions of religion, such as the church or clerics, the fanatics of the South, excuse me, but they exist, and the issue of literacy. I mean, that's how this has been controlled for so long, and why, if you can't read the Quran for yourself and make interpretations, logical interpretations for yourself, and you have to believe what someone's expressing to you, it doesn't really matter what the Quran says or what the Bible says or the Old Testament in Judaism, because someone else is telling you what to believe. I think that may be a big part of the historical problem here.
Please respond briefly, because then we're going to shut it down.
Well, I think I'm responding mostly to what Reza just said. Not to disrespect your question, but I agree with your point that we don't disagree as much as we have seemed to. The issue is that there's no reason for us to have this denominational language. If we are in the business of simply describing transcendent experience, how we have them, what they're like, what is reasonable to conclude on their basis, neurochemistry is a part of that, but I agree with you. It does not subsume the whole conversation. If we are in that business, there is no room for a Buddhist version of it, a Christian version of it, in the same way that there's no room for Christian physics. I mean, the Christians invented physics, but physics, because it was a real domain of inquiry, floated free of its Christian roots. There's no such thing as American science versus Japanese science. I mean, science is science because it is the one mode of discourse where we are rigorously honest with ourselves. Everyone is in the business of proving everyone else wrong. You can actually win points for proving yourself wrong in science. This doesn't happen in religion, and it should. And if it did, it would have a winnowing effect that would be catastrophic for the religious enterprise, and then we would be left with mystical scientists.
Well, I think that it's certainly true. I mean, that science has sort of rules and regulations that are far different than rules and regulations of theology, but because they are alternative modes of knowing. There are alternative means through which you probe reality. And while science unquestionably has a monopoly on facts, it has no monopoly on truth. Quite the opposite. And the idea that sort of physicality or materiality are the sole means through which one can investigate reality, through which one can probe reality, I think is something that even science itself would probably
Where have I claimed that?
Disagree with. No, I'm saying that that's sort of the scientific conception that, you know, anything that cannot be part of our empirical, observation, our empirical experience of the world, then is beyond sort of the realm of science, and so therefore cannot be discussed in the way that the sort of high kind of concept of the rules of dialogue and discussion that you just spoke about with science. I mean, I think that it's easy, I think, for all of us to sort of point to the faults of religion or to the prejudices or the biases of religious people, and then to sort of make generalized comments about religion in general. To me, that is a profoundly unscientific way of discussing religion. Science certainly does have a role to play in religion. But science also uses the same kinds of language to describe similar experiences. When Dawkins refers to memes, I don't really understand what the difference between memes and the way that Sufis describe, the matter of the universe is. I don't really understand that. When he refers to, for instance, this notion of transcendence or mysticism being a result of simulation software in the brain or something, that's just simply a new language, a new means to describe the same experience. Or something else that he says, had, or hyperactive agent development, this belief that we are sort of hardwired to expect agency when it doesn't exist. So we mistake coincidences or spiritual experiences. We mistake coincidences for spiritual experiences, etc. Or we mistake chemical things that are going on in our brain for mystical experiences. Again, that is merely an alternative language, a scientific language in this way, to describe modes of reality. It's not any more or less legitimate in the dialogue than religion is, but it certainly has a monopoly on facts and on causation, and in that sense, it has a higher level, particularly in these kinds of discussions that we're having than religion.
I'm sorry, it's my happy duty
Sure.
to bring this conversation to an end. On behalf of all the lucky ticket holders and myself, I want to thank Sam and Reza for an evening of fascinating conversation.
Thank you so much.
Sam Harris and Reza Aslan from the LA Public Library. For more information on Sam Harris's latest book, Letter to a Christian Nation, visit samharris.org and learn more about Reza Aslan's No God But God at rezaaslan.com.